Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sarah, and now I'm standing here in front of you to give you a new insight or idea about one of the pedagogical approaches that can be applied in today's teaching and learning process. So, I will start with this question. Have you heard about the term of flipped classroom? If you have, then I hope my explanation will give you another new insight, another new ideas for you about this teaching approach. But if you haven't, then I do hope that my explanation will give you a new knowledge about this method. So can be one of your options in teaching the students in the classroom. So before we begin, let's take a look at the definition of flipped classroom first. So, what is flipped classroom? According to Brenda Denker, flipped classroom is a method where the students are introduced to the concept before the class session, so that during the class session, they are doing the activities, they are allowed to learn with peers and the teachers. Basically, this approach is trying to change the teacher-centered approach into a student-centered approach or learning-centered instructional strategy. And according to 2014 survey from the Flip Learning Network, 78% of teachers say that they had flipped the classroom, the learning process, and 69% of the teachers say that they would recommend this method for the other educators. So from the conclusion, we can conclude that the flipped classroom has brought a lot of good impacts for both the teacher and also the students. So now we're going to look at how this flipped classroom works. So the first one is the teacher will give the explanation through the material before the class, and the teacher will give certain materials to be read or to be learned before the class session. And in the class session, then the teacher will directly lead the discussion about the challenges that were found by the students during the learning process before the class session. And there are also some advantages in this from the implementation of this flipped learning, which also become the reasons why flipped classroom is a good option to be applied in the classroom nowadays. The first one is the students can learn at their own pace. Different from the conventional learning method, which relies mostly in absorbing and understanding the materials at the same time and pace, flipped learning allows the students to use their own learning and understanding pace. And they also can use their own learning method and different kind of method, of course. So each student will have the different kind of learning method and learning strategy. That's the first one. The second one, flipped classroom creates the more effective and efficient learning process. We know that through this approach, makes the students to get prepared with the ideas and questions before the class, so that during the class, the students are more prepared, are more well prepared, and they have already ready with the question, with the discussion, and they have learned about the materials, so that during the class, the discussion between the teacher and the students is more engaging, alive, and effective. And the last advantages is the flipped classroom helps the students to develop students' learning skills. We know that independent learning is one of the skills that should be developed by any learners in all around the world, because it can help someone to be a critical thinker. And the process of learning in this flipped classroom pushes the students to be more independent in learning. Those are the three advantages of the implementation of flipped classroom. So I would really recommend this method to be your option to teach your students later on. So now we are arriving at the end of my explanation. From my explanation, we can see that flipped classroom is one of the good options, one of the good approaches that can be used by the teacher in order to increase the quality of teaching and learning process because of those three benefits that can be found when applying the flipped classroom. I'm Sarah, and thank you for your attention.